never disappoints. I can't believe it's actually quite quiet up here today. I've taken the Countach up here before and put that onto YouTube. Now I'm in the Espada. We've already come out from the UK in this car. It's been on the Gyro, this 50th anniversary of Lamborghini, and now we're just making our way back to the UK, and well, it'd just be rude not to blast up the Route Napoleon as well. Really spin this thing. I keep on remind myself of that. So I'm using second and third gear, and there's a softer bellow than with the Countach, but it actually corners quite flatly, which is not a surprise when you just see how low this thing is. Anyway, we'll continue up, and we'll do a little bit more. It gets a bit tighter, but on the open stretches and on the autoroute coming across Italy, this thing is an absolute hoot. What it does best is actually high-speed cruising. On the hairpins, it's all a bit of a struggle. 350 horsepower, remember, at 7.9. Not a huge amount of torque. Basically, the Miura engine on smaller carburetors, so slightly choked and hasn't got the torque, and weighs 1650 kilos, and he's meant to carry 4 people rather than set the ultimate time up a hill climb. But all great fun. Anyway, let's go and do some more. Braking isn't their forte. Brakes have improved hugely over the years, but there's a softness to the handling to the cars of this vintage. It sits on 70 aspect tyres, and it's just a lovely elastic feeling as you sort of get close to the limit of adhesion. I have to say, on these fairly new Redsteins, they're 205, 70, 15s, there's quite a lot of grip actually. You just feel a slight movement because of the sidewalls being at 70 aspect. It's a great bit of road. There's some guys over on the tour, they've come over from New Zealand. When they couldn't go back to New Zealand until they'd driven the Route Napoleon, you can sort of understand why. Power it through. Really stable, doesn't even think about stepping the back out on this thing. It's got a limited slip, but it's just a four-wheel drift machine in the dry like this. In we go, pitch it in, rolls. Say, it doesn't roll at all, nearly as much as you expect. Oh dear, it's one of these funny little cars, quick glass cars. Yeah, they're allowed to drive them on a funny license at the age 14, but they're limited to about 40 clicks or something, 30 miles an hour. Wish we had roads like this in the UK. Anyway, it gives you a little taste of blasting an Espada across the Route Napoleon. Right, so that's one tank done. Including this one over here. Madness. And when you finish topping this one up, you move back to the other one. Sometimes you can, it's just a little bit boring. There you go. Well, if you ever find yourself lucky enough to be doing the Route Napoleon, this is a great place to stop. It's Castellane. It's on the route, little village, and it's a little sleepy sort of market town. Great place for lunches, cafes everywhere you look, and it's famous for having this sort of church on top of a rock, so it's dead easy to see as you come into Castellane, because it's incredible church on top of a rock, as they tend to do out here, and it has this the green river going through it, which is self-explanatory when you see it, because it really is green. And there's the Verde Valley goes off from here with a famous bridge over it, just named after this river, which is truly green because it's all coming off the glaciers up in the Alps further up. But anyway, I just recommend it as a superb place to stop. Loads of cafes to choose from. What a wild road this is. Well, Espada's not quite suited to it, but it's all good fun. Roadworks. Do you want to just flash what's up ahead? Yes, we almost had the Italian job there. How funny. Steering, you certainly need a big steering wheel to get you around these hairpins. It's quite got the torque to bring you out the corner, it's not too bad. To be rushed. The other thing that's different to the Countach has really nice pedals. Super smooth throttle action. It's very easy to heel and toe in this car. It's just right. The right-hand drive Countach is just renowned for being pretty rubbish. Great noise, listen to that Miura V12 howling up to 7,000, occasionally a bit higher. Amazing views up here if you get the weather right as we have today. About this road, it's really quite long, it's 80-100 kilometres like this. Here we are, top again. How high are we? Yeah, 1148 metres. After the fabulous weather we had for Route Napoleon yesterday, we stopped in Beaune last night and we've woken up to this sort of grey and a bit of rain for the long slog. Well, it's mainly motorway here to Calais and then obviously motorway in the UK. Before we go anywhere, I always have to do a sort of pre-flight checks on it. I just love lifting the bonnet on this Espada anyway. You look in and those 6 giant Webbers sort of, you know, presented within the V12ness of it. So just I quite like the way they've chromed the oil dipstick. Yeah, we saw down here, if I just grab the camera, hiding right down in there, I can see a spark plug. I don't know if you can see that. Yeah, can we see that? There's a spark plug hiding down there, which means there's been a lead off. So we've been on 11 cylinders at some point yesterday, I don't know when. I'm just going to fiddle around and just get that final 12th cylinder on board. That's the funny thing with a V12, if you lose one pot you don't really notice, it's slightly embarrassing. But there we go. Right, we'll have all 12 cylinders now. Good. Yeah, miserable day, but it's time to hit the road. Great thing about the payage, it does give you an excuse to go through the gears. It breaks the monopoly of the French waters routes. Oh, if only you could just continue the sort of cruise, the sort of speed this car is capable of. At Calais, we're now waiting for the ferry to arrive, and I thought while we're doing that I'll give you a quick tour of the dashboard, because it's taken me about 6 months to learn what all these sort of knobs and switches do, because they're not like other cars. So if you look down here, this is the first one that really got me, because this is like a double rear stat. Strange thing, one actually increases the backlight of the dials, well that makes sense. Then this little tiny one inside here, well that actually increases how bright the warning lights are, which is I've never seen another car before. That one's fairly straightforward, does the headlights, and then this cigarette lighter. Well, we thought it didn't work because you plug a tom-tom in there, it doesn't work. But actually, it's enormous, and it's a high power cigarette lighter, which I presume for owners to light. You know, original owners had their cigars and things. That was the only thing that would actually light a big Havana cigar. Wind screen wipers, that's straightforward. Delay on the windscreen wipers, quite unusual. No red line on the tacho, 10,000 RPM. And we go right over to the other end, there's this enormous speedo, and a real shock because it's absolutely spot on accurate, which I've never known on an Italian car before. Within a tenth of a mile an hour at 100 miles an hour, just peculiar. Down here we have this thing opens the vents on the bonnet on the outside. That's actually just fresh air coming into the inside cabin. And underneath here is a water tap, and that's how you turn the heating on and off. Again, it's unusual, but it's typical of the period. I had a Ferrari of 1968, and on that one it was even worse, because to put the heater on in that car you had to stop, open the bonnet and open some taps under the bonnet, and then you had heat inside. They're all very peculiar, these sort of 68, 70 cars. This car's 1970. Anyway, no, it looks like we're loading. Anyway, here comes UK. Now. We're going to get a sea view on the way across. The mascara probably go rusty. Oh, literally. Oh my lord. Oh, there's no spray. There you are. Hope you enjoy the view. Right. Well, we made it. I reckon that was about 1,400 miles. 4 days of adventure. My favourite thing to, really get to know a car. And boy, do we know the Espada now. It surprised me actually. It's an even better cruiser on the motorway than I expected. And then on that Route Napoleon, that was pretty. I was having a ball up there. And I can't help but compare this car to the 330. I had that Ferrari 330 2+2, And once I'd had a go in the 400 GT Lamborghini at the factory, I thought, oh, actually, this is actually quite a nice car. Perhaps I ought to have a look in the Espada. And that's why I got it in the first place. And between the two, the one thing that the Ferrari 330 has over the Lamborghinis is just in the finesse of its details. It's beautifully constructed, the Ferrari, but it's the engine. It's that Bizzarini Miura V12 engine, 4 litres, 350 horsepower in this thing, that makes the Espada a special car for me. Yes, it's the crazy styling as well, and also it's actually better on suspension than the Ferrari, which sort of came out when we were up in Route Napoleon, because the Ferraris of this period had live axles and leaf springs. We've got independent suspension here, and I'm just so pleased to be able to have said, yeah, I've done a big journey in the Espada on some of the best roads in Europe. But, whoa, what a car this has been. The only way I can describe it is it's a bit like a Daytona. It's a soft version of a Daytona. Daytona's a bit more horsepower, a bit lighter, but not exceptionally lighter than this. I put this on the scales recently. It was 1640 kilos, ready to go with fuel. But it is a wacky looking car. All the time I've owned it, I can't get used to the looks of it. I mean, it is peculiar, and it sits so low. You never get used. You see it in petrol stations and things. You think, whoa, what a thing. But it's so nice to be able to report that it seems to work as well. I wanted this as an S2. I wanted the S2 because you get the Miura wheels of the S2, and I think they're sort of essential to the looks. But I keep coming back to it. It's the engine that makes this special. There it is in all its glory. Let's see if it'll do me a favour and actually see if we can start it up. Yeah, there we go. I love the mechanicalness of it. If you get hold of this, that's great. And you look at all those special levers all moving. I think it's only right that I dedicate the trip to Ferruccio Lamborghini and what he did 50 years ago in forming Lamborghini Automobili and bringing us these great cars that we've seen over the last few days. The Miura, the Espada, Countach, Diabolo. I mean, the list goes on and on, doesn't it? I mean, Murcielago. Well, let's go bring it right up to date, and the Gallardo and the Aventador. The sort of wild streak of Lamborghini continues to this day, but in the Espada, I've had a fabulous time. So thank you, Ferruccio Lamborghini. It's been great fun.